The next question. The listener recites the title from a news feed. The unrest in Hong Kong strengthens China. A question arises. Those events are probably connected with the transfer of the center of governance concentration into China, aren't they? One of our listeners, Kirimet, writes, I cannot comprehend how the passage of the extradition bill, which allegedly was the cause of the unrest, strengthens China within the framework of establishing China as the center of governance concentration. Who is behind the unrest? The global predictor, the US country elite, or Great Britain elite?
Surely, the global elite is behind the unrest in China, but global elite is there implicitly. The mechanism itself was carried out by the US country elite as the pressure point for China and Russia. I already spoke about that when we discussed the G20 summit and Xi Jinping's visit to Russia that agitates events in Moldova and Hong Kong. This is a very interesting theme, unexplored so far. We will probably do some research on this subject. The essence, to be brief, is as follows. China has to lose its cultural identity a priori to be established as the center of governance concentration. What was done to achieve that? Hong Kong and Macau were seized away from China in order to create a new personality type by implanting Western, British in particular, culture in the whole population. Continental China had its own cultural revolution. When father-son's link was broken, Red Guards, Hunwei Bins, freed themselves from traditional Chinese society and formed a different transformative communion. The next step in a new community formation in China was one-child policy, when families have only one child. As a result of Industrial Revolution, people live up to Western standards. The Western mindset takes its roots in society and people become susceptible to Western values, to be planted in on a full scale. That was the next step towards China's transformation into the center of governance concentration. By one-child policy, we created 300 million people of a new formation, and the rest of the Chinese society was put aside for further conversion. The next step consisted in plugging in the new Chinese culture, internally formed in Hong Kong, into a prepared society of continental China. That is why Hong Kong was returned to China. It was returned ahead of time, before cancelling the one-child policy, and with provided mechanism of gradual inclusion in order for cultural stereotypes to bleed from Hong Kong to the mass of the 300 million Chinese of a new formation. Let's not forget, a lot of living quarters were built in the cities. The whole empty neighborhoods await Western specialists. There is a delay with the occupation of those living quarters, but Hong Kong's inclusion should proceed as planned, and even with some acceleration. What we can see here, because China and Hong Kong have different ideological context, two ideologies but the same conception, then the inclusion of bourgeois capitalistic Hong Kong into communist China, both in quotation marks, cannot take place without cataclysms, without resistance of certain hard-headed part of the bio-robots who cannot accept a new cultural environment. They cannot come into contact with this new environment. They cannot bring elements of a different culture that China needs in order to make it as the center of governance concentration. That is why they should be cut off. How they can be efficiently cut off? At the cost of antisocial activity they would engage in. We can observe one of the elements of that, a passing of extradition bill, according to which convicted felons must be transferred from Hong Kong to continental China. Seems like there is nothing unusual in this practice within one state. But hard-headed bio-robots read it like this: because the ideology of Communist China does not correlate with the ideology of Hong Kong, all who will speak out against the state ideology would be crushed by repressive Chinese apparatus. That means they will be transferred to Chinese prisons with conditions not as comfortable as in Hong Kong prisons. We will protest. As a result, all who are not able to be inoculative material became visible. The same as one plant is being inoculated into another plant, Hong Kong is being inoculated to Chinese tree in order to create a new type. A part of the population is not able to be an inoculative material, they are useless as a graft. That is why they need to be cut off. That is why antisocial behavior is taking place. Global elite don't come down to such a structural business. The US country elite does it by their own structural mechanisms, like intelligence services. You've got the picture. It is obvious.